You're listening to the Blind Tiger Record Club podcast, where we champion music of all genres, and we believe vinyl is king.
For a dying man, I feel pretty good, I feel pretty good. For a righteous man, I'll do what I should, do what I should. For a fallen man, I'll get up again, I'll get up again. For a dying man, I feel pretty good. Oh, we're born to trouble as the sparks fly high. Born to trouble as the sparks fly. It's alright. In the light, I see you glowing. It's alright. In the light, I see you glowing.
This episode is brought to you by 85 Supply. 85 Supply is a nationwide supplier of wholesale merchandise. These guys offer over 250,000 different products. They've worked with customers like CMT, Uber, Chick-fil-A, LaCroix, all the way to some of the most popular names in modern entertainment. Whether it's 50 pieces or 100,000 pieces, these guys have you covered. 85 Supply is a hands-on boutique merchandise experience. Check them out at 85supply.com, printing at its finest.
It's alright. In the light, I see you glowing.
Blind Tiger Record Club is a box subscription service that delivers new vinyl directly to your door each month. You can choose from 6 genre styles, including singer-songwriter, rock, alternative rock, classic rock, jazz, soul, and blues, and discover. Now BTRC offers free shipping for all subscriptions in the U.S. You can even add vinyl picked from the store added to your next box, all with free shipping. So go to blindtigerrecordclub.com and start discovering and rediscovering new and classic music today.
For a dying man, I feel pretty good, I feel pretty
good. On today's podcast, we are discussing the Marcus King Band and their latest release, Carolina Confessions, with special guest, singer-songwriter, guitar extraordinaire Tyler Boone. Before we get to that discussion, however, let's take a look back at how the Marcus King Band got to this release. When Marcus King was 15 years old, he walked into the Orange Pill in Asheville, North Carolina. He had snuck in underage to slip Warren Haynes a demo. He was almost arrested, but it worked. It was 2011, and not long after that night, he got some more songs to Haynes and won him over. Even then, at that early age, Haynes was blown away by the young King's vocals. In 2015, the Marcus King Band released their debut album, Soul Insight, on Haynes Evil Teen Records. King began to develop a following on the festival jam band circuit. Even in that scene, King was blending southern rock, blues, traditional R&B, and soul, as well as jazz, all together in one sound. Under Haynes' tutelage, King wrote and produced the entire album. It reached number 8 on the Billboard Blues album chart. As they began planning record number 2, Fantasy Records stepped up and became the new label home for the band. It was also the label home for Haynes' band, Government Mule, and the label funded the self-titled release with Haynes picking up the reins as the producer.
She was surrounded while she was alone, and in my house become less of a home.
The album went number 2 on Billboard's blues album charts. Somewhere along the way, a live YouTube video of King performing made its way to Nashville producer Dave Cobb. Cobb wanted to track King down and work with him. In an interview last December in Rolling Stone, Cobb said, "You can tell he was born with it, but he has also developed who he is and made his own path. Southern rock is as important to him as soul music. American music is very important to him. It's an amalgamation of Southern music as a whole." This brings us to 2018 when the band relocated to Nashville to record Carolina Confessions with Dave Cobb. Released October 15, 2018 on Fantasy Records, the album is King's biggest yet. It didn't enter the Billboard 200, but it was the band's first entry on the top current albums chart, peaking at number 55. It went number 2 on the Blues album chart and also reached number 2 on the Heatseekers album chart. So let's drop the needle and take a deep listen to the Marcus King Band's Carolina Confessions. All right, well, welcome to Blind Tiger Record Club Podcast. I'm David Williams, and I'm here with Rudy Newman.
How's it going, Dave?
And we would like to welcome Tyler Boone.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Tyler, thanks for joining us today. We're going to discuss the latest Marcus King Band record, Carolina Confessions. But before we do that, let's get to know Tyler a little bit. Tyler, you've had so much going on this year. New music releases, the launching of Boone's Bourbon, and the first annual Charleston Songwriters Festival happening in April. So Let's just start with your music. This year you've released the EP Jealousy, and the first single that went to AAA radio was Moving On. That song features guest performances by Americana duo Finnegan Bell. So tell us about that song and how it's doing and just how that song came to be.
Yeah, so myself and this band from Charleston, when I used to live in Nashville, I played the Firefly Music Festival up in Dover, and that was 2016, I believe, and it was awesome. We had 2 sets. It was just pretty cool to have your name sitting there next to Kings of Leon and Mumford & Sons, and it was amazing. And after that festival, me and those dudes were they knew I was doing a Nashville record with Brandon McCaff over at South by Sea on East Nashville, and that was the very Nashville record. But we're like, man, we should document these songs sometime. So eventually we recorded at Ocean Industries in Charleston, which is owned by Eric Bass of Shinedown. So it's got just incredible stuff, just like any other Nashville studio. And we did these tunes, and I thought it'd be cool to release them single by single, mainly because I'm pretty much obsessed with Spotify and all the playlisting stuff. And it worked out really well. And when we put out Moving On, we went to radio with it. And that was the same time we were talking about Marcus King, that his single went to radio, went with All Access, and we did really well on AAA, man. It was awesome. And then, of course, just because, man, the Finnegan Bell guys, those guys are just incredible at harmonies. I just had them sing on it. And it was really cool. And it's still hitting radio pretty hard, man. The station in Knoxville just picked it up, and it's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so it hasn't even really seen its peak yet. So hopefully it'll keep connecting at that format. I want to go ahead and play that song, and just to let everybody, if they're not familiar with it, this will be a good chance for them to kind of listen to what you do. Okay?
Yeah, awesome.
I've been running down this road with no place to hide. Stuck up 30 minutes north, I'm run out of time. Always looking down, always ready to go. You can't keep me here, I got somewhere to go. I've been falling down, and I can't get up. We've been running around, and it's time I get on. And I've been looking to go. I gotta make this right. I've been looking to go. These are the times of our lives. My father always told me go and preach.
All right, well, that was Moving On. So I guess next, Tyler, let's real quick talk bourbon.
Yeah, the Boone's Bourbon, it's available in Nashville where you guys are at. But in about a week, it's going to be a year that my Boone, so it's called you call these private labels. I partnered up with a distillery in Charleston called Stripe Pig. The idea started when I lived in Nashville. but I was able to launch it in South Carolina first. It's all kind of based on state laws, and once you kind of get it going, then you can kind of start moving it from state to state. In just a year, we're in 6 states, and then next week I go down to Miami for the first. I've never been to Miami, which is kind of crazy, but I'm gonna go down there and we're gonna sign a deal with Southern Wine and Spirits, like the biggest distributor in the country, and we should be launching with Florida and California, Kentucky, Nevada, and Texas in the next couple months. And we just got Costco. And it's really cool because, obviously there's 2 different worlds, but they also do kind of collide because, you're playing in bars and clubs and festivals and everyone's kind of drinking. So it's helped me out to kind of curate myself, like maybe on a Spotify playlist. I'll like send them off to those dudes or like radio people or even like festival
Nobody minds
people.
getting that in the mail, I don't think.
No way. David Sabal up in Milwaukee Summerfest. I got to play that last year. I never played it. I mean, since then I've gone back and played shows there, but that was our first show ever in Milwaukee. And we were in direct support for Slightly Stupid, which was nuts. So yeah, man, it's cool.
Yeah, that's great. And I think it's just another example too of like in today's music industry, just being creative about, ways to kind of carve out a viable, career. It just doesn't always look the same, artist to artist. And I think it's really kind of just a neat, different way that you kind of are doing this.
Well, thanks, man. It took a long time, but some people were like, man, I think you should focus more on the music. And I was like, nah, man, they go together, so I'll go do a signing or something somewhere, like, where they have like the tastings or whatever for like 3-4 hours, and we'll sell a ton of it because I'll be like, hey, I'm the owner, and people are like, that's crazy, man. And it's cool. So it's been a heck of a ride, but I can't believe it's going to be a year come next month. So, and it's 117 proof too. So it's not for the faint of hearted. I know that the high watt at Mercy Lounge is a whole bunch of it still. So they're probably trying to get rid of it. So go drink it.
Yeah.
Man, it's cool.
That's awesome, Tyler. And so I guess last but not least, and this is a pretty big deal for you as well, but this year you're one of the co-founders of the Charleston Songwriter Festival. And that inaugural event is happening April 18th through the 20th of this year. So tell us about that festival.
Yeah, so I partnered with some guys right down from the street from you guys, Works Entertainment. It's Luke Pierce and Ben Haley over there. And then another guy that I believe you guys are familiar with, Arliss Albertson. He's a songwriter. He's got some cuts. And he also owns the St. Augustine Festival down in Florida. And so we kind of took his model and basically like the BMI, Key West, and like the 30A. And it's a lot of country, but then I gave the idea, like, hey, since it's Charleston and people love that High Water Festival, it's all Americana AAA stuff. I was like, let's do some of that. So we have John Paul White, Civil Wars. His new album drops like the week before on Single Lock, so that's really cool. We got Will Hogue, and then we got like 2 gems, Levi Lowry and Wyatt Durrett. And Wyatt lives here in Charleston. He's got like 10 number ones like Zach Brown. He's got that new number 1 with Luke Combs. He wrote songs for Jason Mraz, and he owns like a taco restaurant next to the Windjammer down here. But he's like an incredible songwriter. He's becoming like more of an artist, which a lot tend to do. So it's gonna be really cool, man. It's gonna be 30 top writers all up and down King Street, and then the music hall, and it's gonna be an annual event, man. We're hoping to maybe next year bring it offsite and have like an actual festival ground, but we just wanted to kind of introduce it this year and get Charleston familiar with it.
Yeah,
so we're stoked.
And you're really kind of pushing the whole like storytelling from stage, kind of vibe too, right?
That's never been a thing really in Charleston. So we're bringing like the songwriting around Bluebird feel to every, like there's not one full band event. It's all, every single one is around, even the ones in the music hall, which is going to be like Will Hogue, John Paul White, and Levi and Wyatt called their duo called Yesterday's Wine. But that's gonna be just wild, man. I love Will Hogue and John Paul White. So
yeah, I think I need to make a trip down to Charleston in April.
Finnegan Bill is playing right, like the kind of like the pre-show before the music hall, and then they'll be playing the after party right after that. So
that's awesome.
I got them busy.
Tell me, where do we go get tickets for that?
CharlestonSongwritersFest.com.
Okay, awesome. You want to talk some Marcus King Band?
Yeah, man. I love this album.
All right, let's do it. Well, I guess the best place to start is with the band's first single, Homesick. So we played a bit of this song on our Best Vinyl of 2018 episode. This album was released October 5th of last year and was one of my absolute favorite releases of the year. I still wanted to talk it over with you because I know you really like this record, and it just, the more I listened to it, the more I was like, I think this is one of my top 2 or 3 of the year.
Yeah, I have like a little bit of history with Marcus, and all his dudes in his band, like Dean Mitchell, his sax player and all that. They all like live in Nashville now, but they're actually South Carolina dudes. They're all from Greenville, South Carolina. And right when Marcus was kind of like popping off, when his second album came out with Rita Is Gone, it was, what was that? That was like 2016?
No, yeah, 16, because the first one was
16?
15, yeah.
And so we did some shows with them, and then I booked them on a festival down here with Dr. John, and obviously, me and my band played as well. And it's cool because, I do a lot of the bluesy type stuff too, but, he's really in that Warren Haynes, Allman Brothers type world. And, the dude had like X's on his hands when the first show we played with them. And I was like, are you not even 21? And he's just like up there just shredding it. And it was cool too, because it's like, he's just a guy that was talented that got found. I believe the story is Christmas Jam. Warren Haynes saw him in Nashville playing, but and that was kind of the start of it. But like when we played those shows with them, like his parents come out because they're from the area, and his dad gets on stage and jams with them, and it's really cool, man. So I love this beginning stuff, but this album's really cool because I feel like, obviously being younger, even for myself, you kind of jam more, you know what I mean? But this album is like, it's really kind of song oriented, you know what I mean? So
yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I like it.
Well, let's kick it off with "Homesick," and that was the first single off the record. So let's go ahead and play that and introduce everybody to the Marcus King Band.
One more day, watch the sunrise from the highway. Lord, one more night, sit alone again in the pale moonlight. And I don't know why, seem this ride takes so much longer every time. But my heart is due back south. 100 miles, Lord, they feel.
All right, so that was "Homesick," and that one did peak at number 26 on AAA format radio.
Oh yeah, obviously me being a smaller dude, my stuff's not gonna last on the charts, but that was really cool. It impacted September 10th, 2018, with Dave Matthews on RCA, with Again and Again, Jackie Green, Good Old Bad Times with Blue Rose, Marcus King, Homesick, Fantasy Concord, and then my song Moving on Coast Records. So that was really neat because I'm just such a huge fan. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna hang with them for like a week and I'm gonna be gone.
Not the worst company to be in, though.
No, for sure, man. But that's a solid single. I heard that all over the place when I think.
Yeah. Well, I think that song, that one. I mean, this whole album's really rich in its blues influence, and even the horns on this track, I feel like they're more blues than soul. A lot of times, especially with a lot of this throwback stuff that's been happening, lately, like I think it's all just really easy to categorize more in soul. And I feel like this one, is kind of like this nice mixture of soul, blues, and jazz. But this track, to me, it's just so singable in the chorus that it's this kind of like, and you were touching on this a little bit before we played the song, but this is what really sets the album apart for me, is that all of the songs, they're songs, and they're very, very singable, and they've got great hooks in the chorus, and it's just really, really strong song crafting on the whole album. Absolutely,
man. I mean, Dave Cobb was on it, and I'm not sure if you know this, but even Dan Arbach, he helped compose some of it. So
yeah, he co-wrote on one track, and we're gonna cover that one for sure. And yeah, I mean, this record was produced by Cobb, and it was recorded here in RCA Studio A. And, like you said earlier, his first 2 releases, they were produced by Warren Haynes, which is the guy that kind of discovered him. And he put those out on Evil Teen Records, which is Haynes' record label, and just kind of due to the fact that Haynes is attached to bands like you said, like the Allman Brothers. Also, he's a founding member of Government Mule, and he's been guitar player in several other bands as well. But it's a lot of them have been. I mean, even done stuff with members of the Grateful Dead. Like it's stuff that to me fits in this jam band category
For sure.
and I kind of I kind of had Marcus King kind of categorized that way because of those first two records. I just kind of associated them with Haynes. And so this one, to me, though, because of its song crafting, is so different. And it doesn't go off into that jam band kind of territory.
For sure. I mean, there's, I believe it's Goodbye Carolina. At one point it goes from like a minor to a major. And when it does the major, it kind of does like the Allman Brothers thing, but it doesn't do it very long, and then it goes right back to being the song. I was like, when I first heard that, I was like, oh, it's going to be just a jam thing again. And then it was like, nope, it's actually a tune. And so it was, I was just really impressed by, how you could tell he matured as an artist. You know what I mean? So
yeah, he tends to cut off the jam right when you're like, okay, are we coming back into the bridge in the final chorus, or are we going back into a 7-minute jam? And I think he always shuts those off right at the right time.
For sure, man. I mean, what? I'm sure down the road he'll do another jam, but I think this is probably the best move for him as a young artist.
No, so. For sure, and I'm sure Cobb, had a lot to do with that. Him coming in and working with an artist. I mean, a producer like Cobb. I mean, I just think that really helped keep him in a lane instead of kind of going off on tangents. But the thing that really did surprise me is this album's full of to me, it feels more like jazz improvisation. And it's very, very mixed in still, obviously, with his guitar licks are very much a blues style guitar. But the jazz improvisation is all over it too. And I feel like some of the members of his band have probably a pretty deep background in jazz as well, because I hear it on almost every track.
Oh, for sure. The horn sections, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I read that he actually studied jazz at the Fine Arts Performing Center with some guy named Steve Watson. I didn't look up his credentials, but obviously if Marcus King went to study with this guy, this was a legit, teacher.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm pretty sure that was back in, like I said earlier, his Greenville days. That's where he grew up. I have buddies that live here in Charleston that are like, oh yeah, I went to high school with Marcus. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's just cool to hear he's just a local boy that, he did study and work really hard, but he's definitely like that bluesy guy. But it's cooler, so much cooler. Because I mean, like I said, when I met him, he was 20. It's so much cooler to hear him be like just straight, just rock and roll blues rock, and now it's kind of like the licks got a little more staccato, like, you know what I mean, and just like more,
it's just so much more mature,
more about the notes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Not let's riff.
Then the next song I wanted to play was 8 a.m. And I think on this track I wanted to play this one because I think you can hear pretty clearly some of the jazz influences that they're all through the album, but on this one, they're more front and center to me. So let's play that song and then we'll come back and continue our discussion.
Hope they play me on the radio every hour. Don't need money, don't need power. Just like to know that you hearing me. And I know now you did what you came to do. Broke my heart back in two. Let me want more. If you could see me now, you'd be glad you left me. Make love at me now. Wasting it 8 a.m.
So on that song, I feel like the horns, the percussion, and honestly even like the timing signature on the track, it feels something that only like a jazz trained artist would do. And some of this is just because I kind of associate like blues as more of like almost like a street art, you know. Like it's a lot of it's self-taught, or maybe the people that are really good at guitar, and it's just kind of influenced there. Whereas where the jazz is fairly complex, and that's what I can't put my finger on this record is the album on its whole is way more complex than just a regular blues album feels to me, or some of these throwback records that that some of these artists have been putting out, where they're definitely pulling from like soul and blues influences, but this album just way more complex.
Oh yeah, it's not a 1-4-5. You know what I mean? You're hitting like a major seventh over here, and that's not for
sure
a typical GCD capo on the fifth. Like there's no way you'd be able to follow that. You know what I mean? So definitely these guys have honed in on their craft. You know what I mean? And there's another guy that helped compose on it too, and he's a huge jazz guy, Pat McLaughlin.
Yeah, and he co-wrote on that same song with Dan Albrook.
Yep.
Yeah, and he wrote on one track on here with him as well. But yeah, so obviously Marcus is a guitar prodigy. Clearly, the blues influence is all in it. But, as we mentioned, this is his third album. He's only 22. Like you said, when you saw him and he had X's on his hands. I mean, he's been kind of like doing this, I guess, his whole life. So.
Yeah, since he was 8, he was playing with his dad. Started playing in his dad's band at 8 until he was 14, and then was like, I need to go out and do my own thing, Pops.
Yeah, see you, Dad.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why I think like Cobb was such a good marriage for this band, because I think you've mentioned a couple of the players in this band, but there's 6 players counting King. There's drummer Jack Ryan, bass player Stephen Campbell, trombonist Justin Johnson, sax player Dean Mitchell, and keyboard player Deshaun Alexander. And obviously Cobb, coming in here and kind of. He really likes to record. We've talked in a lot of our podcasts where we've talked about Cobb albums where he just obviously prefers to like pull this live feel in his recording process. And so, I think with this band in particular, he recorded that way. I think he really wanted to capture that feel and really get like the vibe of the whole band.
Oh yeah. I mean, a band like this, if you were to bring them in there and like, all right, you're going to go and like, we're going to, like a skeleton, like we're gonna do the drums or we're gonna do this. There's like the feel would not have been there. You know what I mean? Yeah. So they probably would have been upset.
Yeah,
they're like, I don't want to do it that way.
They definitely wanted it like live tracked, in the room. And they said that Dave, he already had, the ideas that he wanted whenever they came in, because that was Marcus's first time doing a major label, recording session. And he said he was nervous, and Dave just was like, nope. This is just play the songs in here. I've got these ideas and we'll fix it. And here you go. Boom. Done.
Yep. And guess what? The record's done.
Yep. Well, I want to play How Long next. I think this one, not only is it showcase some more of the kind of his blues chops, but it's also like a really powerful song for the band as a whole. And I think too, you can kind of get a sense for what we're talking about with Cobb's live approach. So here's How Long.
Awesome.
From the bottom, I come running, I won't stop till I reach the top. So I come running just to find you. If anybody ask about me, tell them I'm on my way since yesterday. 'Cause I came running just to find.
Almost this entire album is written by Marcus King, but you mentioned earlier about Dan Arbrock and Pat McLaughlin. Well, this is the song that they co-wrote. So it's Pat McLaughlin, who has written in the past with guys like John Prine. I mean, to name a few. I mean, he's written with a ton of people, but on John Prine's last album, he wrote on with John. So, and then of course Dan Auerbach from Black Keys. So they co-wrote on this record with him, and I think this is just another great example of both that blues and jazz influence that this band has.
For sure. I mean, this tune right here, I feel like would stack up as a radio single as well. You know, it sounds just like the old Derek Trucks album before Tedeschi started becoming like the main thing. You know, it's like the horns and kind of like the pop, 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 really upbeat. Sounds like it's at a festival. You know what I mean? Like that's a huge summer single in my opinion.
Yep. Definitely fits too. I think in that radio space that some of, you know, whether it's Nathaniel Rateliff or you know any of these bands that we would kind of plug into that sound. Like I think it fits in that space from a radio standpoint for sure.
Oh yeah.
Maybe we should call them and tell them that should be the next single.
Yeah, yeah. Dude. But hey man, I got $5 grand. Let's go back to radio. But but yeah, I you know I love that song. How Long, Where I'm Headed. No, I'm sorry. No, How Long, Homesick, and then my last favorite is Confessions. So I'm glad we played How Long, because that's definitely one of my favorite on the album.
Well, you just teed up the next song perfectly, because the next song I want to play is Confessions. Like all these influences that we've been discussing, it's all blended in, but this one even has more of that kind of traditional soul vibe in it to me.
Oh yeah.
And I you know, this one kind of has a slow build, but then there's a pretty big payoff in the chorus. This one for sure is an example to me. When I was talking about how complex this album is, you could teach a theory class in music school and use this song as an example. Let's play that and let everybody hear what we're talking about.
Cool.
Every morning, sunrise across my bed. Find myself missing you on them days we used to do, and the words I never said. Oh, seems so familiar to me. Could it be I was just alone when I had you? Didn't treat you right. I stayed out all night, left you homeward and all alone. But jealousy rushed through me, simple came for me to stray away from you. Forgive me for I can sin. Forgive me for I've always been singing where to you over and over again. This will be my last confession. This will be my last confession.
So I also wanted to play the bridge of this track. If you want to hear an audible example of everything we've been discussing, like here it is. And that song is just so good. And Tyler, as a blues player yourself, is that the kind of song that you'd be drawn to on albums like this?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit. I mean, they're totally two different tunes, but like Rita Is Gone from Marcus King Band 2016 release.
Okay.
Just only because not like because they sound the same, but because there's kind of like a walk down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And it's very chromatic. You know what I mean? It's not like we're going over, here from the 1 to the 5th to the 4th. They're just like they're just walking down.
Right.
And then it just kind of leaves it open to kind of shred it at the end. You know what I mean? So Those are always kind of like the funnest tunes because you can start out slow and then at the end it's just absolutely rock and roll.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is a fourth generation musician, and his grandfather was a fiddler and a guitarist, and his father was a singer, guitarist, and toured in bands since the 70s.
Great grandfather was the fiddler. Yeah, and then grandpa was guitar.
Yeah, okay, so four,
Yeah, 3 generations of guitars, 1 of fiddler guitar.
Which I only say all that to say, like, I mean, this is just natural for him. so in who he is. I thought it was interesting. The guitar that's primarily used on this whole record is his grandfather's 62 Gibson 345. That's the guitar that he used predominantly for all these tracks.
There's a really cool video, man. When he first played Third and Lindsley, is that same tour we did some shows with him, back in 2016. And he's at Third and Lindsley, and it's one of those, like, for all the gear nerds out there that are listening, where they kind of like run down his rig. And he's obviously at that point, and probably his whole life, he had just growing up where, the whole house is probably filled with amps. But, he does that really cool thing that I would always love to do if I could, if I had a van, to have all these amps. He does the A/B switch, and instead of like having all these pedals, he has one clean amp and one dirty amp. And so when he's ready to click it on, he just has 2 amazing, I don't remember what the amps were. It could have been like a Fender Bassman or something, the big tall one. But, you can just kind of hear it where it's got like that really clean but dirt tone, with like some real natural reverb on it. And it's freaking incredible. So I love his tone. And obviously, it's a 335 or is it a 345?
345.
345. It's just beautiful,
Well, the next song I wanted to discuss was Autumn Rains. And one of the reasons I wanted to kind of play this song was because, to me, it just shows kind of some of the diversity on this record. We've talked about several different influences that, that he naturally kind of has, but this one is more, and this isn't the only one. There's a couple of tracks. I mean, I know there's one that you like in particular that's more of a singer-songwriter track. What was that one that you...
Remember.
Remember, that's right. So Remember, that has acoustics in it. Well, the Autumn Rain does as well. This song it just feels more like a singer-songwriter type song. But it's great because it continues to showcase the songwriting ability that is here as well. So let's play Autumn Rain, and then we'll talk about that.
Autumn rains down by the river, singing sweet songs to wash my pain away. Autumn rains up on the mountain. I don't seek shelter 'cause I've always loved the rain. Autumn rains down by the river, singing sweet songs to wash my pain away. Autumn rains up on the mountain. I don't seek shelter 'cause I've always loved the rain. She said nobody's ever written a song by me. They don't see the beauty in the ways that I see. And the real sweet but sunshine, like to listen to the river flow across my mind.
All right, so that was Autumn Rain, and as you can see, I mean, I think that just, is just this really killer, like, Allman Brothers feeling songwriting type song.
Oh yeah, when you're listening to him play the acoustic in the beginning, it's for someone who just kind of knows like their country chords. Like you're assuming he's probably doing like I don't know what the chords are, but like a G or C. But like he goes back and it's like a seventh. You know what I mean? And it kind of gives that tension. But it's like a kind of a sad song, but it's got like the blues chords right behind it. You know what I mean? It's like it kind of reminds me of that 12-string song Stevie Ray Vaughan, "Teardrop," I believe, where he comes out with playing the acoustic in the beginning. I was listening to that this morning. I was like, that sounds just like that because it's a sad song, but it's got like sevenths behind it, so it's kind of got that bluesy tension. It's just it's just different. When you imagine like a Nashville songwriter and then like a bluesy jazz influenced player that's putting out really good songs. So That's why I like it the most. So.
Yeah, for sure. And like you said, I mean, he does that. Really, the acoustics are, if I remember correctly, they're only really on those 2 tracks. The song you were referencing, Remember, and then this one, Autumn Rains. So they're, in a way, they feel like almost outliers on the record at first. But then when you listen to the whole song, you know, like on Autumn Rain, it still has this amazing guitar riff in the bridge.
Oh yeah, around like 3 minutes in, it's what Rudy was saying a second ago when we were talking about it. Very Allman Brother, you know, just like that whole 3rd and 5th type thing where guitar nerds just kind of, you know, love that stuff. So yeah, I love that breakdown in the 3-minute section. It's great.
I feel like you can kind of hear the Allman Brothers influence throughout this one, like through the acoustic guitar, you know, the strumming pattern and everything through the beginning of the whole song. And then definitely when he starts to shred that solo, like that's when he goes full on Dwayne Allman. And it's like, hey, guess what I sound like.
Don't forget, I still play the guitar.
Yeah. That's right. And I think, you know, even on this one, Cobb has these background singers that are really low in the mix once the song builds, and it just kind of lifts the whole song. And it's just this very subtle use of horns, too. They're only in a small part of this, but they're there. So, again, I mean, in a way, because of the acoustics, the song feels like an outlier, but it really doesn't when you listen to the whole track. I mean, it fits the whole record.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just to encompass what kind of we've been talking about, this isn't one of those albums where, you know, it's like the single and like 2 other tracks and the rest you kind of just always skip over. You know what I mean? Every song's got its own flavor to it, you know?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I could have played any song off of this and had the podcast on it because it's just that good.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the last song I wanted to take a look at was Goodbye Carolina. So, you know, we've talked about King's guitar work. We've talked about the jazz influence, the blues influence, the soul, and we talked about his songwriting that's present on this album. But I definitely want to make sure that we mention something that's really important, and I also think it's one of Cobb's strongest attributes as a producer, and that's the vocals. So, you know, we mentioned he's 22, and I don't know how he has this aged, soulful like voice that's just so compelling, but he does. And as much as I love his guitar playing, and as much as I think the songwriting is really strong on this record, it's his vocal that's really the secret sauce to this whole album.
Yeah, well, the first time I ever heard Marcus King, well, the first time I got invited to go see him play, I don't know who he was. He was playing the Asheville Music Hall. And, you know, from Greenville to Asheville, it's only like 2 minutes. So it's not very far to even like, you know, or I'm sorry, 2 minutes. Oh my God, 2 hours. To get over there, and my buddy's like, "Hey, man, go check this guy out tonight. You should check him out." And I put him on. I was like, "This guy's got to be like, you know, who is this guy? He's got to be like in his 40s, or you know what I mean." And then we saw him. I was like, "This dude's 18 years old," you know. So it kind of, I think, puts everybody kind of surprises them to know how young he is and how he has such a soulful bluesy voice.
Yeah, it's like I was saying earlier. I feel like his ability has transcended his age very like exponentially. You know, he plays and sings with the talent of a person that's in their 70s that's been doing it their whole life, and he's early 20s. You can't and you can't teach that. He was born with that innate ability, I believe.
Oh yeah, like he had no choice.
He didn't. I mean, he has been doing it a lot longer. It's just you just can't wrap your head around the age thing. It's even though he's been doing it for years, it's hard to believe. And the vocal is really the key. I mean, it's just it's so it sounds aged. I mean, there's no other word I can even think of to describe it. It's like you said. I mean, I can totally picture you going, man, this guy's got to be 40, because it does not sound like a youthful voice. But I wanted to play Goodbye Carolina because I think like this is one where you can really kind of just sit back in that vocal, and it's a great song. So let's play that, and then we'll come back and give our closing thoughts on the record.
I dreamed of the day when I'd hold you in my arms again, read you all the letters I wrote, never sent, give you all the pieces of me, put them back together, put them back together again. Life has a way of writing your story for you, and the hero doesn't always get his girl. What if you could change the end to the novel they've been writing? leave no resolution. So goodbye, Carolina. Searched my whole life to find you. Hate to leave you, but I hope you know where I'm going, I'll be seeing you. So hold my hand as I'm leaving. Hope my pain would be enough reason. See you on the other side of the blue-red sky. Now I'm going, hate to tell you goodbye.
So that's Goodbye Carolina, and there's also another amazing walkout on this song at the end that just kills. There's all kinds of jazz improvisation in this song, blues guitar, all that stuff we've been talking about, but to me, this song is just straight vocal driven.
We're saying earlier to him being so young. I mean, it's like, who hurt you, man? It's such a sad song when it starts,
That's the best part, is like, yeah, did someone actually like tear him up, or is this just...
Who broke your heart, man? Because I want to know, and we need to fix this.
Well, it's interesting because, like you said, he's from Greenville, South Carolina, and, this album, from interviews I've read with him, like the whole album almost has a theme, and it's basically largely about leaving home, and specifically a place like Greenville, but also I think like in a more metaphysical use of that word, home. And this song specifically is like, it starts off with the idea of leaving a person, but as you listen, you realize like there's more going on there, like he's leaving like the place that person represents, and all. I mean, it's just, and you'll see that theme kind of like repeated throughout a lot of the songs on this record. And so they're pensive and remorseful, and it's just, again, like, how are you writing this?
Yeah, I mean, it takes some people years to get that one song that's like amazing. And, right off the rip, that first song it's sad, but it's mature, and it's definitely an amazing way to kick off the album.
I think he's just had some excellent examples of songwriting, ahead of him, and he's honed the craft already. He's taken every example that he's seen, and he's like, maybe I can do that, and maybe I can do that a little better.
That song in particular, like even the opening, it's almost mournful with that slide guitar at the beginning. And it sets the tone for the whole rest of the song, even as it builds, because, at the end of it, when it does do this walkout, it's pretty big at that point. But at the beginning, you're kind of sad with them, Yeah,
it's kind of like when my guitar gently weeps, that slide comes in, and it's a sad tune. But then the whole band kicks in, and it's like, all right, there's the whole Marcus King band.
I don't have to be so sad anymore, at least right now.
Well, and that's even, but see, lyrically, that's even what's happening in the song. Like he's remorseful about leaving, but he's also, you sense this hope in like what's next, kind of. I mean, it's just a really, really well crafted tune, and his vocal sounds amazing on it. I think Dave, you can hear that one too, because there's not as much going on in certain parts of that song. You can kind of hear some of Cobb's influence, I think, as a producer as well there. It's a great song on a great album. And this was the Blind Tiger Record Club November Record of the Month in the Jazz, Soul, and Blues style. And if you sign up by the 25th of the month, you'll get albums like this shipped directly to you. So the album that we have for Marcus King, it's a limited edition 180-gram audiophile version of this album. So cool. That's what we had available, and we still have it in the store. And Tyler, just really appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, man, thanks so much for having me. And I would love to do it with anybody else, but it was really cool. Yeah, you asked me to do it with the Marcus King new album because I got like a little history with him, and so it was neat.
Yeah, man, we'll definitely have to have you back on for sure.
Cool.
All right, thanks, Tyler.
Thanks, guys.
For everyone listening, you can learn more about Tyler at tylerboonemusic.com. That's Tyler, Boone, music.com. And he's also all across socials. So you really need to check out his music and try to catch him performing at one of his live events. Also, don't forget to check out the Charleston Songwriters Festival, April 18th through the 20th. As for the Marcus King Band, you can literally catch them all over the world this year. They are touring nonstop, including dates in Japan and Australia in April. They hit a lot of festivals through the early part of the summer, and in June they head back overseas and can be found in the Netherlands, the UK, and in Germany. The Marcus King Band was also just added to the 50th anniversary lineup for the Woodstock Festival 2019. That wraps it up for this episode of the Blind Tiger Record Club podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast so you can stay up to date with all the episodes as they release.
For a dying man, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good.
We also want to thank our sponsor, 85 Supply. The theme song for this season is For a Dying Man by Finnegan Bell. We appreciate their participation in the show, and you can check out more about them at finneganbell.com. Lastly, I just want to remind everybody that you do not have to be a member to shop at the record store, and all the music we discuss on this show is available in the store, as well as hundreds of other titles, many of them limited edition, colored, and rare vinyl. For listeners of this podcast, we are offering a special coupon only available here. Simply type in BTRC Box 5 in the coupon code at checkout to receive your first monthly vinyl for only $5. That's BTRC BOX 5 and start your monthly subscription in the style of your choice. So go to blindtigerrecordclub.com and find out how to get your monthly vinyl today. Your vinyl, your choice.
For a dying man, I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good.